Welcome everybody. Nem belonging me Emmy Tom Barrett. I am going to be leading our project and I'm really looking forward to working with you today. As we get started, if you have had the chance to write your name and where you're joining from in Google Meet chat, that would be excellent. I'm going to begin by sharing an acknowledgement of country. So I would like to start by acknowledging the Bunurong people who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm joining you from today. I recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and those who are emerging from those communities. I also acknowledge and extend my acknowledgement to the lands that you're joining this session from today, and also the challenging global context with the pandemic and various other issues that we face around the world. So I'm extending my acknowledgement to where you're joining from. We've got teachers from Australia as well, and with this team in Australia is from different lands. It's great to connect, and I'm excited to be helping you and supporting you in your professional learning across the next 6 weeks. I'm going to pass over to Mehdi, who's going to do an opening prayer for us, and then I'll tell you a little bit about our session and we'll get started. So Mehdi, if you could please do our opening prayer, that would be great.
Thank you, Tom. So I'll lead us with a word of prayer, wherever you are. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your grace and ask, God, that your grace will lead us and take us through in the session this afternoon and the sessions ahead. We ask that your Holy Spirit, who is our teacher, a guide, and a counselor, will be with us throughout the days and the sessions that we will be having with Tom and the others that will come on board later on. We commit the people that are here for the sessions this afternoon and those that are unable to make it, God, that you will be with them and wherever they are. And this our prayer we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Mehdi, thank you for sharing our opening prayer. And once again, welcome everybody to our Effective Learning Action Research Project. I'm excited to be joining you and leading this professional learning across the next few weeks. And this is our first session, so workshop number 1. And I think earlier on today and in our channels, in our spaces where we're sharing resources, we've sent some resources to you to hopefully guide you through this workshop. We've got a WhatsApp channel as well. I can see lots of numbers joining that, and our resource was in there earlier today. You can also see the resource that we're using up on the screen as well. So I've got the same as you, and we're going to be working through that together. And we're going to have a resource like this for every session. So you're going to have a great little pack of resources to explore each workshop. It's going to have everything you need in there. But don't worry, if you haven't got it, you got some paper, you can write down stuff, then great, you're ready as well. So I'll take you through the different activities. Let's start though by talking whether we're ready to work together, how we learn together. So we talk about this before. I've done some projects with some of you before that you might have seen. We did some work with project-based learning, and I've been in Port Moresby as well, doing some sessions. And we talk about the idea of being ready to learn, as we do with our students. So in the bold text on the left here, you can see the things that we want to try to do. So are you ready to learn? Are you ready to really participate, take part? So you're going to be present. So we're going to try and focus as much as we can on this work. Share the air. So that one's all about, if you've got a chance to talk to people, and there's some activities coming up later where you're going to be discussing some ideas with your colleagues, take the time to share that space so that everybody gets a chance to participate. So you're kind of thinking about how much time you're taking in the talking sessions. hold your ideas lightly. So we're going to be open to new ideas. And all of this program is all about improving our teaching practice. And I encourage you to think about, how do you stay open to new ideas about your teaching? How do you stay open to new ideas? And we're going to be kind, specific, and helpful. I know that we're going to do all of those things, but that's all about feedback as well, and receiving feedback well. Now, another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be using the WhatsApp channel whilst we're in these types of sessions, just to help you be really clear about the different things that we're focusing on. So I'm also going to drop in an image now in the WhatsApp channel, which is part of what we're going to be talking about. You can see that's popped up. Hopefully that's come through. If you're using your WhatsApp channel, then great. You can see some little kind of notes and things that reinforce what we'll talk about. So we've got a WhatsApp group running. Don't forget to check in with that. Look at what resources there. Don't forget to look at the past website as well, where the team upload the materials and resources that we need, and all the dates and details of the sessions are all on there as well. So we need a keyboard captain and a spokesperson as well. So if you're in a team, who's the keyboard captain? Who's that one who can type really, really fast? I don't know. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're the only one in your team. It doesn't matter. We just need somebody later on in our activities who might have to do some typing for our team. So have a look around the team now. Just think, who's going to do that job? You might also need, in some sessions, to have a spokesperson. So one person who could speak into the group as well. So sharing ideas that you might have discussed in your team back into the bigger group. So get used to this type of structure, because we're going to be using this more and more across the next few weeks. All right, I'm going to keep us moving along. So I'm excited about this project. We're going to be digging into an action research process. And these are our 5, I've got them on the screen here. These are the 5 workshops that we've got. Remember, all the details are up on the website, and we'll be working our way through each of them. But you've got 5 different sessions. Today is all about process. Today is all about, what is the action research process? Do we understand it? What are we getting ourselves into? What's ahead of us? So all about process. Number 2 is all about content. So we're going to be thinking in workshop 2. Remember, that's like next week, so it's really soon. But we'll be thinking about what the content we focus in on. And we're going to be thinking about girls in STEM. So we're going to be thinking about a STEM environment, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We're going to be thinking about those subject areas and how inclusive those environments are. I'm not going to say too much. We've got some experts lined up to talk to you next week. It's going to be great. Looking forward to that one. That's number 2. Number 3, we're going to be designing what you're actually going to do in your classroom. So you're going to do some design work. We're going to check in with you in workshop number 4. That's progress. And then to finish up, so this is in about 5 or 6 weeks' time, we're going to be doing a reflect workshop. And that will give us a chance to celebrate, give us a chance to share the impact that we've had so far. So we've got 5 workshops lined up, and I'm really looking forward to it. So today is all about process. Today is all about making a start in understanding what our action research project is. I'm going to share with you, I've done this little graphic here. It's going in the WhatsApp channel again. The 3 keys. Here we go. So this is how we unlock some great professional learning. Pardon the pun. We got 3 keys, okay? So today, workshop 1 is all about the action research cycle. So what is it? What do I know about it? Is there some new learning for me? We're going to talk a little bit about reflective practice. So what does it mean to reflect as a teacher, as a practitioner? We're also going to think about, at the end of our session, gender inclusive STEM classrooms, and so what those spaces are. Remember, when we talk about STEM, we're talking about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics classes. So those areas of the curriculum. So those are our 3 keys. That's our focus across the course of this workshop. All right, I'm going to move us on a little bit. Now, you might notice I'll just move us through our workshop. Maybe we might skip over a page that we have. That's fine. You've got it there to support you. I just want to make sure that we get to the good stuff. We spend as much time as we can learning together about the key things. So let's talk then about one of our keys, which is about action research. Now, what I would like you to do is to start thinking about, what do you know about action research? What's been your experience of action research? You're going to do an activity soon, which encourages you to think about and write down some notes about action research. Like what is your experience been? Let's go through some of these key teaching points about action research. Again, in your little chat, it's coming. We have issues with the network, still working on it. Okay, that's fine, don't worry. We'll do what we can and we'll keep moving through. Remember, you've got these resources with you so you can follow along, and if you dip in and dip back in again, that's great. So action research is a practical process for you. You're going to be following this process over the next few weeks. It's all about change and improvement. It's all about your reflections on getting better. So you're going to take some time to think about, what do I want to improve on in my classroom? What do I want to get better at as a teacher? We're going to think about planning some new ideas, and then we're going to think about taking action and seeing how it works. We're then going to maybe adjust what we do in our classroom. This is very much about you as a teacher implementing some changes in your classroom to improve your practice. And I'm here to help guide you and lead you through that process. So it's going to be amazing. We're going to get, like, within 6 weeks, you're going to go through the whole process together. And we might change something really important in our teaching and in our classrooms for the better. Normally, an action research project has 4 stages. Remember, I'm asking you to think about, what do you know about this? Maybe you've seen this before. Maybe you have done some study. Maybe this popped up when you were doing your qualifications to be a teacher. Maybe you had a go at doing this. So start to think about those experiences that you've had. Normally, we have 4 stages. And I'm actually going to show you on this slide here, which shows the cycle. And so we have step number 1, we do some reflection. So what's working in my classroom? What's not working? Why did this happen? How can I make it better? That's step number 1. We do some reflection. Remember what I said, reflective practice is like, it's like the engine fuel of everything, trying to make us better. Number 2, we respond to those reflections. So we might have a question like, what could I change? What's my plan? What new strategy could I try? So we're going to design some change. Step number 3, we're going to think about, okay, I'm going to go, now I've made a plan, I'm going to go and implement that in my classroom. I'm going to make that change. I'm going to do something in my space with my students. So what data will I collect is a key question. The idea of, okay, I'm making a shift in my practice, but what's the impact? And then number 4 is observing. So how is it going? What has changed? What impact is there? And then we suddenly find ourselves back at step number 1, and you can see it's a cycle, because we are trying to continually improve our practice. So it's not a start and stop, it's a continuous process. We're going to begin with this idea of reflecting, and that's really starting today, as well as kind of moving into next week. So we're going to have a good chunk of time to reflect about our learning environments, to reflect about our teaching and learning spaces. So this is a key cycle. This is our action research cycle. Let's have a look at some examples of, like, some brief examples of what somebody might actually do. So here we go. Let's just zoom in a little bit for you. That's better, isn't it? Look at that. Zoom right in. So Mrs. Allen is a maths teacher. She's struggling with how to effectively manage her classroom. So because her students, something about engagement and learning, she decides to try out a buddy system. So she's done some reflection and she's thought about an idea, a buddy system, so that each student has a weekly buddy who can help them with any questions they might have about the topic. She plans out the system in detail, assigns each student a buddy, and then, so that's the acting, that's the implementation bit, isn't it? When you go and do it. And then she's going to observe how everything has gone at the end of the week. So that's a little brief example. Let's have a look at what Mrs. James is up to. She's a science teacher, and she's interested in improving her students' enthusiasm and engagement in class. Maybe she's observed or reflected or noticed that it's never quite as high as maybe she's seen elsewhere. So she plans out a little project where she looks into different strategies for encouraging student participation. And at the end, she gathers some data from a questionnaire and observes to see what works best. So these are a little examples. There's two more on that page if you wanted to have a look at it, of the type of thing that we're going to do together, okay? Some small ideas that we can try in our classroom, some small changes that we can make to our practice that do not take a lot of resourcing or time or permission. There are small or micro, true, tiny ideas that we can attempt and go and off and try. That's the sort of thing that we're going to work on together across the next few weeks. So everyone, I've just introduced you there to our action research cycle. I hope that it's been ringing some bells and making you think about what you have experienced before. Now I'm going to explain the discussion activity. So this is some work that you're going to do next, okay? So this is all about you making some notes, and this is an activity. And so I'm going to explain the instructions to you. Your first step, this is for everyone, first step is to take some time to think on your own. Sometimes when we're working, we often want our students to start talking straight away, but they're not ready to talk yet. And it's the same for us. Let's take 5 minutes on your own to think about our action research process. And you're going to ask yourself a few questions, and I've got them up on the screen here, and they're connect, extend, and question. So what connections do you make? What new ideas have you already heard? And then you're going to start to think about what questions you still have. And so this idea of connect, extend, and question. I'm going to give you 5 minutes just to make a start on that. And then I'm going to say to you, all right, now you've got to talk to your team about the same thing. So you're going to have 5 minutes on your own and then 10 minutes with your team. Okay? So remember, you have got the instructions in your booklet. I am also going to send the instructions in our WhatsApp channel now. So you're going to do step number 1 for 5 minutes. Okay, so maybe you've got some paper, you want to make some notes. If you've printed this off and you want to write in the booklet, then that's great too. Okay, I'm going to start a timer, and in 5 minutes, I'll bring everybody back together. Okay, off you go. Great to see some of our colleagues in Australia joining us as well, which is great to see you in the group. And so what I'd like to do now is I'm just going to guide you towards talking a little bit more with your team about this activity. Let me just share with you an example of how you might fill in this little connect, extend. So this is a couple of examples. I've put loads of examples in the resource. I really want you to kind of tap into those if you're not sure about what to do. So this is an example of somebody doing this work. So imagine a teacher saying, I connect with the action research process because it allows me to reflect on my teaching and make changes. Different ways to collect data is something that's new. Maybe you write in the question, about how do I choose a problem to focus on? I'm not sure about that. Also, how to know when my research is done, like when do we stop? So any questions that you have, you jot down in your notes. There's another example that you can have a look at if you're still not sure. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set a different timer, and you're going to have some time to talk to each other in your team. If you are on your own, then it just gives you a little bit more of an extended period of time to refine your notes and do some individual reflection. So this is still in our teams. If you are with people in the room, and there's lots of you, and I know and Atali, there's lots of people there. Maybe you're reaching across the table, talking to each other. Maybe there's some different groups coming on, but I want you to talk about what you know about action research. So I'm going to set a timer for 10. Drop in the chat any questions or problems that you're having. Thank you for the updates as we go. We've got WhatsApp and Google Chat running. 10 minutes to talk to some of your team about your connect, extend, and question notes. Okay, off you go. I'll see if I can find some music as well. There's been a request. Wow, 10 minutes is up already. Okay, keyboard captains, or whoever is near a keyboard who's able to type, this is the next part. I hope that you've been able to think and had some time there to reflect on what does action research mean to you. Maybe made a connection. Jerry, thank you for writing about your connection in the chat. Jerry said he would like to strategize his teaching practice in terms of knowledge and teacher-centered learning, and thinking about how do we help students to be the center. So Jerry's had a go at writing in some ideas, and this is what I would like you to do next. On the screen, you can see step number 3. Write one question in the Google Meet chat. And I've also said coaches, we've got some coaches in our teams. We've got some people helping and taking on the role of coaches. We'll be leaning on you more and more throughout the process. You might be able to help as well. So your job now, and I'm going to give you just a few minutes just to do this, is to write in the chat. So find where Google Meet chat is, little bubble icon. And write one of the questions that you have. So you might be wondering about, you're not sure about something, it's a clarifying question, whatever it is. Have a go at writing a question in the chat for us. We might gather those together, and we could even send some more resources back to you and answer your questions as well, okay? So write your questions now, please. Keyboard captains, it's time to be a keyboard captain. Thank you, Shelley. So how long do I observe for before deciding what I'm going to action research? New year, yeah, great question. What's the most effective way for us to commence? Yeah, with our partner schools. Thank you, Beth. So Asatavi is making a connection. Thank you, Cedric, for writing in. I think Cedric's Asatavi keyboard captain. Helps me reflect on my teaching methods and skills. Jerry's got 3 questions. Wow, he's building up the suspense because he's not revealing what they are yet. These are all really great questions, and I know that we're going to have plenty of opportunity to work together to figure them out. Like the idea about how long we're doing something is an important question, because we're going to be working pretty quickly through this process. But, an action research project can take as much time as you have. You can apply it across a longer period of time. You can do it quite quickly. Sometimes in my teaching, I might have a conversation with my colleague on in the morning and say, you know what, this is not working, and then try something straight away with my students. And then by the time I get to lunch, we've stopped and I've talked about the impact. And so sometimes it can happen really quickly. Our process is going to go across 5 workshops, and it's about 6 weeks. And so that includes next week when we'll really get into the starting point. So don't feel that you have to make any decisions yet. We're going to help you figure that out. How do we identify a problem? Yes, that's great. So often we need to kind of explore what data we have. How can we apply this outside of the classroom? Absolutely. So just it's the idea of reflecting on our choices, thinking about how you respond to those choices, making an adjustment in your behavior. It's not just a classroom process. We are going to collect all of these lovely questions. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for adding your thinking in and ponderings and curiosities into the chat. Keep that going. So if you're still going, keep going. Jerry, I'm expecting loads. It's great that we connected previously in a formal workshop as well. Jerry, thank you. Great. Thank you for making a note of that. I'm going to move us on because we've got some other great things to talk about. And we have another activity to get ourselves into. And so the next part of our session. So if you're following along, we're on page 12 of our workbook, okay? So if you've got that in front of you, page 12, that's where we're up to. You may remember at the beginning, I was championing reflective practice and how important this is. And so let's just talk about this for a second. As a teacher, this is one of the most important things that we can choose to do. This doesn't happen straight away. It won't happen by magic. It won't happen like if we don't pay attention to it. And this is a skill and an approach to our teaching that makes a really big difference. So reflective practice is a regular process for teachers to reflect. So it's not just a thing that we do at the end of the year. It's not just a thing that we do at the end of the month. We're trying to practice doing this frequently, like a habit, like a thing that you want to make a part of your habit. And we're trying to think of practical ways to improve. So this is us as educators taking the time to stop and think deeply about what's going on. What am I choosing to do as a teacher, and how can I make that better? What do I see happening in my classroom? Slowing down and just thinking deeply about those choices and the impact those choices are having. Look at the quote. It's a quote there, or a kind of emboldened piece there. Reflection and inquiry is not a one-time thing. It's a way of professional being, an attitude, and a mindset. Ting ting. It's a mindset, the way that we go about doing something, the way that we think of ourselves as teachers. It does lots of good things. So it's a powerful habit. Reflective practice helps teachers recognize the impact of their actions, thoughts, and feelings, and how that has this ripple effect on our students and what we do. I want you to, across the course of this work, we're going to be improving our reflective practice. This is a key thing that we're going to try and get better at. Another thing I mentioned earlier, and you'll see in the notes, and so this, by the way, is page number 13, is this idea of micro teaching strategies. These are like really tiny choices and adjustments that we make in our classroom that you can then see the impact of. And so you're in control of these things. You're not asking other people to come and do it. You're not looking for help to kind of build this great big thing or waiting. It's stuff that we can control as teachers, the things that allow us to make a difference. So this is an important teaching point for us today, is what is a micro teaching strategy? Because that's what's going to be part of our action research. We don't have time to be doing great big things. What we do have is the opportunity to make some small adjustments and choices in our classroom. A micro teaching strategy is any idea that you can use in your classroom to improve student learning. They're usually quick and easy to try out because they take little time, resources, and effort. This makes them ideal for our action research because they can be implemented by teachers at all levels with very little planning involved. And the main reason that we use them is to improve teaching and learning through small adjustments, lick, true, tiny adjustments to our practice. Let's look at some examples of what a micro teaching strategy would be. And you're going to practice doing this in a minute in a discussion, okay? So you're going to have a go at thinking about some of these. I want to improve And you might say, the language that I use with my students, that's an area of improvement. I think I'd like to do that. I could try to share my excitement more. Maybe I just come into the class and, oh, morning, everyone. Maybe I need to be more upbeat and change the way I share my excitement about my subject. Could that make a difference? I could try to reduce how much I talk at students, and that's a key word. So not we're going to stop talking to them completely. It's just that sometimes we spend a lot of time talking at our students. And so thinking about how much time. Let's look at some other examples. My classroom space. So maybe you want to improve your environment. And something small that you could try is just to change the displays to show student work. That's a small thing. Or maybe even thinking about how you could increase movement around your classroom. Micro teaching strategies are these small choices. They're not something that's a big kind of thing that we have to work on or takes time. So we're going to have a go at doing, let's look at this last one. We may as well, it's on the screen here. The way my students participate in learning is something that I want to improve. I'm just going to drop these in the WhatsApp as well. How could I do that? What could I do to try to change the way my students participate? Maybe I could greet each student with a smile. Maybe I could change the way that we interact right at the beginning of a lesson. Maybe I could change where I stand in the room when I'm teaching. Maybe that small change changes the dynamic of the way that my students are working. Maybe I could move around in the room a little bit more. These are all examples of what you might follow. And I'm going to now explain the next activity. Let's zoom out of here. And you can see I am on page number 14. And so I'm going to explain now your next activity. So tune in to the instructions. It's all going to be about micro teaching strategies. Okay. I'm on page 14. If you're following along, page number 14. And I've got a few things to do. So first of all, step number 1, you can see it on here. You're going to do some independent reflection again. This is important on your own time, thinking about the questions on the right-hand side. And then you're going to talk with your colleagues about some of this in the team talk like we did before. Let me just be clear about what you're looking at. So you're going to select a focus. Can you see these down here? Maybe you're going to choose one of those. Maybe you're interested in the resources. Maybe you're interested in how your students participate. Pick one. And then you're going to think about what are some micro strategies that you could try. So you're going to list some, maybe 2 or 3 bullet points here. And then I've got a third question for you. What evidence or data shows us that there's been an impact? How will I know that what I've changed has made a difference? And that's a really interesting, challenging question to wrap your head around. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to have a think about page number 14 here and those 3 questions. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, some time on your own, and then you're going to have some time in your groups thinking about these different. Remember, this is a bit of a practice because we'll use this later on in our process. All right, 5 minutes is starting now. Look out in the WhatsApp for the instructions. I'll drop them in. And if you need any more examples, they're on the next page. So page number 15, I think it is. There's more examples for you to have a look at if you need it. 5 minutes activity, off you go. Colleagues, I hope that's been useful. Just have a little bit of time thinking about how we come up with these micro teaching strategies. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a turn and talk in our local teams. But in a minute, we're going to get together in a breakout. Okay? So first, we're on step number 2. We're going to talk about our ideas with our team. If you've started that already, great. If you're on your own, keep going, keep practicing, choose a different topic and think through those questions. Thank you to Doreen for putting some ideas in in the chat, which is great. So think about how do we, our students' cognitive capabilities and a strategy is just to ask probing questions. There's ones that get below the surface. Doreen, you're absolutely on the right track. A simple strategy like that is exactly the sort of thing that we're trying to come up with. So you're going to have 10 more minutes in your teams. If you're on your own, 10 more minutes doing some further work and reflection. After that 10 minutes, we're going to put you into a breakout and you're going to be talking to another team about your discussion. So you're going to need to be ready to share. So maybe our spokesperson needs to kind of get themselves ready. Maybe our team needs to think about what we always say to our colleagues when we join up in a minute. So you've got 10 minutes now, okay, to keep your discussions going. If you want to keep writing your notes, then that's also great. So I'll set another timer and we'll put the groovy music back on, and then you can keep your learning going. We'll be back in just under 10 minutes. So step number 2, off you go. Okay, colleagues, if I could have your attention, we're going to move on with our workshop. I hope you've had some time to think about some micro teaching strategies. Remember, we're just practicing. This is not a decision for your project. This is us just doing the thinking around how do I identify a small change. We're going to do some more design work next week, okay? So this is us just practicing that important skill. Now, I want you to be ready for a little bit of movement. We're going to do a breakout. And in that breakout session, so this is step number 3 up on the screen, where you're going to be joining with another team to share some of the strategies you've talked about, but also to connect. You're going to have the chance, if your partner school is in the session, you're going to be connecting with your partner school. And Nicole and Sophie have done an amazing job of getting everybody lined up. And if there isn't a partner school here today, then you're going to be joining with another school. So I want you to be ready to talk, and I want you to be ready to share some ideas. So decide who is our spokesperson, decide who is going to be sharing some of the thinking that you've done. You might do some short introduction and then share some ideas about your teaching that you've been working on in this workshop. Welcome back, everybody. Just a trickle of people as we all start to come back to the main room. So we're in the kind of final 10 minutes or so of our workshop today. Remember, our key elements of today was to think about our action research cycle. So the cycle of reflecting, the cycle of designing, doing something, acting, and then observing. And then we've also been thinking a little bit about reflective practice. So you've been doing that as you've been thinking about those micro teaching strategies. You'll also note that the third key is about gender inclusive STEM. And so this is a little, a seed I'm planting in your mind before the next workshop. So I'm going to, in my booklet, if you've got your little booklets or if you're following along, you might turn towards the end where it says before the next workshop. And so this is some further reading and some work for you to do, to think about and to do some reflection before we meet again. That will be next Thursday, same time, same place. And in order for us to be ready for that workshop, I want you to read and think about what's in this box here. And I'm just going to quickly zoom in on here, see if you can see it. And it says 7 principles for inclusive STEM education. Next week, we are welcoming some experts and guests from Education Services Australia. They have developed this amazing set of resources about girls in STEM subjects. And part of that work is going to be our focus for our action research. And we're going to be looking at these 7 principles for a STEM inclusive classroom. Let me just quickly read them through so you can kind of hear them. And you're going, there's an activity on this page that you can do between the workshops. In the next week or so, we'll send some reminders. And so this is for you to do some work and do some thinking so you're ready to really take full participation in the next workshop. So let's have a quick look at these 7 ideas. So each of them is a strategy or a topic like we were looking at before. You know, we had those topics and we were choosing from a topic. Well, this is a bit similar. So you're going to be doing this in the next couple of workshops. You might select one of these and you might focus in on it. We might think about creating a gender neutral learning environment. I wonder what that kind of means in terms of how you make something, how a learning environment is swayed towards one gender or another. So interesting to think about how that becomes neutral. That would be one way of making it more inclusive. Ensure everyone gets hands-on. Remember, this is all about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So in these subjects and in the way that we approach these subjects, how do you encourage everybody to experience a hands-on experiment or feel and get their hands into the science or the technology that's involved? Number 3, how do you design a learning experience that embraces problem solving? I know there's a few, I've been scanning through the chat, a few things related to that earlier on. Number 4, connect learning to careers and role models. So how do girls in STEM subjects see themselves in those careers going forwards? How are they shown clear role models in the different pathways that they have? Collaborative learning. Number 6, how do we provide choice to help demonstrate our learning in creative ways? And then last of all, number 7, how do we encourage a growth mindset? Ting ting. How do we approach that in a way that is encouraging, is positive, as there's belief of success? So I'm not going to explain more about these today. I'm just here to plant a seed for next time. On this page, which is page number 17, there's a connect, extend, and question routine. We've done that already. So you get a chance to practice that thinking routine again. Hey, by the way, remember, you could use that routine with your students. It's an easy way of just taking that routine with you back into the classroom and provide them a provocation and then ask them to connect, extend, and question. A nice routine for you to use with your students. So this is before the next workshop. Let's look again at the steps. Step number 1. Read through the list of principles about inclusive STEM education. I've just done that with you. Step number 2, make some notes using the connect, extend, and question prompts. I've made some space for you there. Oh, look, I put an extra work, extra step. If you've got time and if you've got the space to be able to do this before the next time, talk to a colleague about what they are thinking. Maybe explore some further readings and links. And that just takes me on to the final thing I'm going to share with you today, which is about further readings. And so this is something for you to work on next time for our next workshop. In your workbook on page number 19, we also have just a few selected links that help you go a little bit further with your reading around what is action research, thinking about reflective practice cycles, and there's a little video in there as well that you might look at, as well as a few questions and provocations for you to have a think about if you have the time. All right, everybody. I hope you also had the opportunity to connect with another school. I know we've had some connection issues, people losing connection in and out, and I know that that's frustrating when we wanted to connect with another school. It's frustrating when you're in that kind of learning space. We're going to keep making the room for you to be able to connect with other schools and your partner schools. So we'll continue to invest time in our workshops to do that, because this is all about learning alongside each other, learning with each other, being able to kind of share the practices and the things that we're trying to make some connections across the experiences that we're having. So we're going to continue to make room for that. All right. I'm going to start to wrap up because it's coming towards the end of our session. There's plenty in our workbook that you can continue to dig into. I want to, the last thing I want to say, let me just find an appropriate slide to kind of leave us on. There we go. There's our cycle. Here we are. There's our, remember, we're in that kind of reflecting phase at the moment, and we're going to stay there for a little bit longer. Our next workshop is going to be all about content. So it's going to be looking at who, inviting our colleagues in from ESA. They're going to tell us a little bit more about those principles of a gender inclusive classroom. Can I just say a big thank you to all the past team who are working behind the scenes to support you and us in getting these sessions up and running. I'm really, really grateful. Thank you also to Sophie and Nicole for your support in getting this session up and running and the whole project. A big thank you to all the teachers in the session, all the teachers here, spending your time learning, choosing to be here. That means a lot, and I'm ready to help. I'm ready to support you. We're going to do some great work together. I'm excited, and it's been fun today to be able to make a start. I know that you're going to do amazing things with your students and have a really, really big impact even over a few weeks. It's going to be great. So thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Sophie and Nicole, is there anything else you want to share before we close up?
Just a big thank you to you, Tom, for a great afternoon of learning, and looking forward very much to the next session next Thursday.
Next Thursday. So I'll see you next Thursday, same time. Thank you, Shelly. Okay. We'll stay on as everybody finds their way to the next thing. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Beth.